here in the United States, when we talk about Vietnam, we tend to see it just as a very new country which happened to be on some kind of a collusion course with the United States for a few years, and then after that the country seems to have disappeared completely. And yet Vietnam has a very, very long history. And I think the most important theme of Vietnamese history, as I can see it, is really the struggle to maintain, to preserve its autonomy, its independence. I don't think that one should really make a difference between the Vietnamese who came here and the Vietnamese who stayed behind in Vietnam. They are Vietnamese, since the Vietnamese people are very determined and very perseverant. So the Vietnamese refugees here are also very determined and perseverant, and that is how I think they are going to solve their problems.
I have been working, teaching the Vietnamese Indo-Chinese students for the past year, and I did counseling also in New Jersey for 4 or 5 years. Yeah. So what I found out was mostly the problem was between the children growing up here and picking up the American way of life, the American values, in contrast to the parents' traditional values and what they want the children to become. You have to be Vietnamese. You could not change so fast and follow your friend, things like that. And also another problem is the children, they going to school, so they going every year, so they becoming more educated than some of the parents, because most of the parents come from the rural areas in Vietnam, and so they don't know much more than the children now, and so that's the conflict between the parents and the children. Also between the father and the mother, because in Vietnam traditionally the women don't go to work, they don't support the family. They now some work, but not as much as they do here, because the husband cannot get the job, so the wife have to go out and get whatever job so they can support the family. And the wife, usually the women get easier job. I think they can get the job easier than the man, but they do anything. The men, they still have their pride, because if back home they are an officer, or if they were in any kind of position, and when they come here, they don't want to work in a labor, manual labor job. So they're a little bit more choosy, and so that's another problem. The father lost this provider role, and the wife makes more money, and the children become Americanized, So that's one of the biggest problem. I see people come to me for counseling.
My name is Thach Huyanh. I was born in South Vietnam, in Saigon. Then I finished in university in the law in my country. Then after that, we became an officer in South Vietnam. From 1962 to 1975, I migrated major. Then after 1975, the communists in the North Vietnam occupied the South Vietnam. I was prisoner of the communists 6 years and a half. And during 6 years and a half, I feel what I do if communists leave me the outside.
Well, Pastor Huynh did manage to safely flee Vietnam with most of his family, and after arriving in Hawaii, he had a chance encounter with the leader of the Kaimuki Christian Church at an Ainahaina Beach Park. From then on, Pastor Huyhn's life has been directed towards helping his fellow countrymen.
So in the future, we hope so many years in the Vietnam, the government, if it changes, we will come back to Vietnam. And we continue, we helping the Vietnamese people in my country. They know about the God better. This is my goal. I need study the Vietnamese Bible. I will come back in my country. I take care of my people better.
My Buddhist name is Reverend Thich Thong. The Buddhism in Vietnam is very popular. I can say 85-90% Vietnamese people follow the Buddhist. But 50%, more than half of that, is really Buddhist. It means they really want to study the teaching of the Buddha. But half of that, they just come to the temple or the monastery to worship the Buddha as the enlightened one, and they can get the lucky or good thing, bad luck for their family, or to pray for the people who die in their family. So I can say that Buddhism in Vietnam is at the culture of the Vietnamese people. The reason I want to search and help the Western people, because I want to taste to the people who live in this country. They help us to help this country so we can come to the freedom of country. So that's why I want to open this place not only for Vietnamese refugees who live in Hawaii, also for anybody, not only for one country.